All right, Market Hero, still talking about straddles now. If you guys remember, selling a straddle is selling the at the money call and put. And we know over time that's supposed to be profitable about 40% of the time. It turns out if we do it every day, it's profitable 66% of the time. If we manage our winners and then we sell straddles in periods of high volatility, we're even more profitable than we thought, right? However, straddles make the most amount of money, but at the same time, they incur the most amount of losses. So, as it turns out, selling straddles and not worrying about our losers is the most profitable strategy. We give up about 10% of our profits to place stop loss and straddles about 150% of the credit we receive. So, if we collect $5 for selling a straddle, we would have a stop loss at $12.50, right? That strategy itself reduces our largest losses, but it doesn't make us as much money as just selling a straddle outright without a stop loss, right? And it turned out that we were using 25% of the profit target to be able to actually buy back our straddles and manage our winners. It turns out a 25% profit target is the most profitable. However, buying straddles back for 12.5% of max profit is only about 15% worse. So people can do that. But a lot of people are saying, well, Steven, shit, straddles are by far, they're super profitable. And you know what? I'm cool with some of the losses that it takes. And because I want to make the most amount of money, I just want to sell straddles outright. So is there a amount of my net liquidation value of my portfolio that I should just devote to straddles? And let's find out what it is here. So again, not to beat a dead horse, but just to make sure everyone has an understanding of what a straddle is. We're selling an at the money call, an at the money put at the exact same time. We're collecting a lot of credit for doing so. So we're selling the options that have the highest theta decay, right? So these options that we're selling, these at the money options, have the most amount of value taken out of them on a given day. That's what makes it such a profitable strategy. At the same time, we make money if the price of the stock falls within our break-even point. On this trade specifically, our break-even point, we're selling the 247 put and call is 240.82 and also 253.18, right? So we make money in a lot of different ways. And obviously the big one is the expected move or volatility decreasing over time. And if you guys remember, straddles work, right? Holding the expiration, they work. But if we buy them back for 25% of max profit, we go from just making $2.71 per day to making $7.89 per day. And that's just like absolutely crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So we did a couple things here. We did two studies for you here. The first, 13 years of data. So this is 2003 to 2016. So we did a couple things, right? So we sold the at the money straddle in the monthly expiration close to 50 days away, and we did two things, right? And this is only one contract. So the P&L that we're going to see here is just by selling one contract, right? So the first thing we did was we put a straddle on, and then when it expired, we put another one on, right? And we did that for a 13-year period. And the second thing we did, and you guys know this is a more profitable strategy, but we want to show you just how profitable it is to manage your winners and being able to get cash sooner and redeploy that cash, right? So what we did was, if we could buy back the straddle for 25% of max profit, we did. And as soon as we bought it back, we used that same amount of capital to go out and sell another straddle. And if the straddles never hit 25% of max profit, we just let it expire and immediately put on another one. But again, the more and more and more we get to utilize this capital in these high probability trades and these profitable trades, the more and more money we're going to make. And we want to see exactly how much more money we can make by managing our winners, which again takes very little effort to do. So if we sold the straddle just after the other one decreased in a 13-year period, we put on about 126 trades. We were right 65% of the time. We averaged about $1.85 a day, and we made over that 13-year period about $11,000. It's pretty good. I would take that. Again, this is a trade that's supposed to be right 40% of the time. We're supposed to make nothing. That's pretty good. However, if we sold the straddle and bought it back for 25% of max profit, if we could, and immediately after buying it back for 25% of max profit, we sold another one, we were able to have a lot more trades. So we're going to have 210 trades. We were right 81% of the time. We were only in the trade on average about 27 days, and we made almost double the amount of money per day, about $3.19 per day. And because of that, we made about 80% more just managing our winners over time. That's pretty good. That just shows you the power of managing your winners and making the right decisions over and over and over again, in the long run, it's incredibly more profitable. You guys have seen here in the straddle scenario, in about a 13-year difference, it's 80% more profitable than not. So let's do another study here. So what we want to do is, now we want to see, okay, how much, I get it. Managing our winners with straddles works. It works about 80% over a 13-year period better than if I just sold the straddle and just did nothing. So how much of my portfolio should I devote to that specifically, right? So what we wanted to do is, all we did was an 11-year period from 2005 to 2018. We bought SPY and we held it. Right? So we bought SPY and we held it, and we wanted to see how profitable that was. At the same time, we sold the straddles and bought them back for 25% of our max profit, and we devoted 25% of our entire portfolio for doing so. So again, we started out by saying we want to know how profitable it is for us to just sell straddles and let them expire on their own over a long period of time. It turns out it's incredibly profitable for us. However, just buying it back for 25% of the max profit we received is way more profitable, right? So now let's take that a step further. Let's do that and devote 25% of our portfolio at any given time to this strategy, and we want to see how that compares. We want to see how that compares to the returns of the stock market. Remember, people think it's incredibly difficult to beat the market. We're going to show you that maybe it's not, right? So again, if you have a $10,000 portfolio to start, you would never allocate more than $2,500 worth to straddles. If you had a $100,000 portfolio to start, you would never allocate more than $25,000, while the net liquidation value of that portfolio is $100,000. So again, all we're going to do is we're going to see if selling straddles, the at-the-money straddles, buying them back for 25% of max profit, and only doing that with 25% of our portfolio is better than the buy and hold strategy of SPY. So on the left side, we see the buy and hold strategy for SPY on average returns about 0.10% per week. The largest weekly loss was about 2% of the portfolio, and on average over the 11-year period, we made about 4.81 or 4.82% on our money every single year, including dividends, on a buy and hold strategy in SPY. Not bad. But again, if we just sold straddles in the account with 25% of the net liquid value, which means at any point in time, if you had, let's say, a $50,000 portfolio, right? 25% of that is going to be, well, I don't know the math, so let's say a $100,000 portfolio, right? That means you would put $25,000 worth of straddles out there, right? That's all it is, and you would buy them back if they ever reach 50% of max profit, right? So again, the average weekly return on that is about 70% more than the average weekly return on the buy and hold strategy. At the same time, the weekly loss is about 25% worse than the average weekly loss of the buy and hold strategy. Again, we know that. However, we should be willing to accept that because we beat the market by 70% by doing this. And again, our average P&L per year is about 7.89 or 90% per year, which again is about a 70% improvement on buy and hold strategy. So in that 11-year period, again, past performance is not going to, dollar for dollar dictate future performance. However, this gives us a lot of confidence that, hey, in that 11-year period, we beat the market by 70%, and all we did was we would buy straddles, we would go out there and we would devote 25% of our net liquidation value to that. That's all it is, guys, and you beat the market by 70%. Yes, you would have to incur some pretty big drawdowns there, like in 2008 and 2009. However, over the long run, over an 11-year period, you beat the market by 70%. So if you want to devote your portfolio just to straddles, we recommend devoting no more than 25% of the portfolio for that. I'll see you on the next video.